So I realized I haven't really done a sit down video in a really long time where we can just sit and chit chat about my painting process and some of the tools I use in Procreate. I personally find these kinds of videos super helpful for finding little tips and tricks that other artists use while they paint. So hopefully you guys can find some of those kind of things in this video. And yeah, let's get right to it. So as always, I set my line art layer to multiply, and I've also just colored the lines red. This just helps bring a lot more warmth to my painting, which I really like. I typically start my paintings laying down my base colors on a separate layer. I'm just using a lasso tool here to make it quick and easy while I kind of carve out the big shapes of my painting. And then once I have my basic colors down, I'm going to start adding some shadows. So for the hair, I like to use a darker color than my base color just to give the illusion of shiny hair by just taking a round brush and kind of carving around the shiny parts, which you can see here. I'll add highlights later, but this is just a super easy way to get that kind of shiny effect really quickly. Before I add shadows to the skin, I'm going to add some warmth in areas where we typically see it on people. So this is the cheeks, the nose, the ears, and the tips of the fingers. And then once I have that done, I'm going to create a multiply layer, and I'll take a desaturated, almost grayish red and just start applying my shadows. So your shadows, where you lay your shadows will depend on your lighting scenario. But for this painting, I'm just imagining that the light is coming above the character, which means that there's going to be some shadows on her neck, under her nose, etc. After I do this, I kind of feel like those shadows are a little too muddy. So in this case, I'm going to take an airbrush and just apply a brighter color over the shadows. I'm not going to add it over the entire shadow, just parts of it, just so it'll brighten the colors, but it'll still have some depth. And then now that we've got some colors laid down, I like to start defining the darkest parts of the painting. So I'm going to take a dark color and just darken the eyes, darken under the nose a little bit. You'll notice I'm paying a lot of attention to the face, and the reason for this is that's where I want the viewer to look, aka the focal point. So there's this kind of design principle that the more details you have in a specific area, our eyes are just naturally more drawn to it. So the areas that you don't want the viewer to immediately look at, like the bottom of this painting, for example, you can put fewer details there and it'll help emphasize your focal point, which again, in this case is the character's face. And so that's why I'm spending a lot more time on her face out of everything. And anyway, now I'm going to start adding lighting to the skin. I'll do this on an overlay layer, and then once I've added the lighting where I want, I'll go in and kind of smudge the edges a little bit. I want to keep some edges just to add like interest to the face so everything's not just like smooth and blurry because it kind of makes it look boring. Something I've recently started doing also is adding cool colors to my shadows. So this kind of helps me contrast all of the warm colors and just makes the colors look more vibrant. So I'll add these blues to the shadows and I'll also kind of smudge it out as I need to. And now I'm just finishing out the colors and I want to bring the colors all together and make them harmonious and see if I can find a better palette. So to do this, I'm going to use my handy dandy color balance. I usually start with the midtones, but I'm just going to kind of play around and see if I can find some colors that I like. And the last sort of step that I kind of do in my paintings is just kind of see if there's any kind of cool effects that I can add just to sort of elevate the painting in some way. So in my initial sketch, I had some stars along the bridge of her nose, kind of like freckles, and I'm actually going to go back and create a new layer and set it to add and give these stars kind of a glowy effect. I think this adds something a little bit more special to the painting that I like. And yeah, I'll also play around with the blur effects and chromatic aberration and just kind of see what I like and don't like, and just see if there's any way that I can add to the painting. So yeah, I hope you guys found this video helpful in some way. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. And yeah, that's pretty much gonna do it. I'll see you guys in the next one.